Now, the governing NDC is to launch a probe into reasons for its defeat in the just-ended presidential and parliamentary elections. Joining sources say former Finance Minister Professor Kwesi Boche has been named as head to the 13-member investigative committee established by the party's functional executive committee with approval of its Council of Elders to look into the cause of their defeat. The committee is also required to recommend the way forward. The party's General Secretary, John Sassoon Nketia, announced the setup of the committee at a news conference at the party's headquarters. And we'll have details of that story for you very shortly here on the polls when my colleague Kamala joins us with details of that, and also hear from some of the executives forming the part of this 13-member committee. But in the meantime, another press conference happening today. The Progressive People's Party is demanding immediate constitutional reforms to ensure the practice of appointing metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives is scrapped. Yesterday, President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo announced a 2018 deadline to make MMDCE position an elective one. But addressing a news conference in Accra today, PPP founder Dr. Papa Kwesi Yundum, who has at some point been an assembly member and also a member of Parliament, asked the government to implement the policy within 1 year.
The PPP has not won elections to produce the Member of Parliament or President, but has established itself as the up-and-coming alternative political party to the NDC and the MPP. After 2 elections in a row, 2012 and 2016, our party has placed third in presidential elections, admittedly with fewer votes than we had expected. But the PPP in 2016 also placed second in some parliamentary contests in at least 4 regions. We are asking the incoming administration to provide adequate financial, human, and technical support to the National Identification Authority so that this work can be completed by the end of 2017.
Dr. Ndum also made 5 other demands and expected to be achieved within 2017.
Specifically, we would like to see that the following reforms are undertaken within the next 24 months. First one, the appointment of majority of ministers from Parliament. See, we are of the view that the current arrangement where ministers of state or even the majority of ministers of state must come from Parliament does not support good governance, and it must be changed. And, you know, those who are appointed by President, how can they go and sit on the floor of Parliament and disagree with him? And then, even more importantly, those sitting there who are still hoping to be appointed by the President as ministers, how can they go and disagree with the same President? And I'm talking about people on both sides of the House. So this defeats the principle of effective separation of powers and allows the President and the executive arm of government to control the legislature. This is wrong. I have been, which for me is one of the very, 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 very key ones, where change is necessary, has to do with the election, metropolitan, municipal, district chief executives, and all assembly members. Let's not forget that one. You see Article 240, that it brings in members of Parliament to the assembly. What does a member of Parliament have to do with the district assembly? What is he or she going there to do? They have a job in Parliament, the national legislature. What are they doing back there? They don't belong. I don't know any country that allows that. You don't have a member of Parliament in the UK also going to the city council to go and sit there. To do what? How wise can one person be? Or all-seeing and all-knowing can one person be? The paying of income tax by the president. And here, Article 68, Section 5 of the Constitution exempts the president from paying tax. This is wrong. And it does not permit the president to set a good example for the rest of the citizens to follow. The president and the vice president should be made to pay tax on their pay and their allowances. When the Atta Mills Constitutional Review Commission, when it sat, it supported this. It supported this. It is important that this amendment is made to provide the moral authority on the part of the president to go after tax evaders, whether they are appointees of the president or ordinary citizens. Public declaration of assets. Here again, Article 286, Section 1 says a person who holds a public office mentioned in Clause 5 of this article shall submit to the Auditor General a written declaration of all property or assets owned by or liabilities owed by him, whether directly or indirectly. Sometimes people forget that indirectly part. But however, you have Article 286, Section 3, that also helps to conceal that declaration of assets. So unless a court, SRAJ, or someone competent like that requests it, whatever is filed is hidden from the rest of us.
Well, we know the president-elect, Nana Akufo-Addo, has already indicated his willingness to have almost all of those issues addressed. And, well, so what's the point of pressing this now with just a few days for him to be sworn in as president? Joining me to discuss further is policy advisor to the PPP, Kofi Siao. Thank you very much, Kofi, for your time here on the Pulse.
Yes,
so let's take some of the issues, you know, some of the specifics that you mentioned there. One of them obviously being the election of MMDC, etc. We know that Akufo-Addo has committed to this. It's in this manifesto. He's indicated 2018 as a date to implement this. You want it in 2017. What difference does a year make?
Well, first of all, before we can do anything in 2018, we need to take some steps, because the law as we have it today is different from what we expect to happen in 2018. So some actions need to be taken first and foremost. Why we are putting the pressure now, this is not the first time that a government has committed to do this. In fact, in NPP 2000, in their manifesto mentioned the election of MMDCs. And the GPRS 1, Poverty Reduction Strategy 1, said that by 2004, all constitutional and legal impediment in the way of electing MMDCE should be removed by that date. And I'm sitting here, 10 years has passed, and we are still discussing election of MMDC. So we can't have 100% confidence in what Nana Akufo-Addo has promised to do unless we see the actions being taken.
No, but
and the second,
his promise is different from the rest we've heard. He's put a firm date to the implementation.
Yes.
When the MPP first put this in the manifesto, it was blank. It was, okay, we'll implement this. They came to power, and Akufo said, I can't do it because the reality as I've seen it is different from when I was in opposition.
Yes.
But he says 2018. So that's very, you can hold him to it.
No, you see, even in manifestos can be different, and we can be pardoned, people can be pardoned political parties if they don't implement their manifestos. When you get elected through your manifesto campaign, you put before Parliament what the Constitution calls the program of action under the directive principle of state policy. That is what was developed by the incoming administration. So they have even gone past manifesto. They have come into government, realized that they need to do it, and the National Development Planning Commission had developed an implementation policy to implement it and gave a date for that to be done.
Which date
2004. GPRS 1 is
But
there.
that was back then.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We moved on from there.
Yeah,
we're talking about.
So the Nana
2016
2018 is talking about, if you like, I think it will coincide with the election of district assembly members. So that is okay. So that is why he's put that date there. But some things must happen. Some questions need to be asked. For example, we haven't heard from the NPP or any of the proponents of election of MMDCs how they would do it. Because the NDC wanted to do
a referendum.
No, yeah, that's one of the issues. You don't have to do a referendum on this matter.
Why?
Because it's not an entrenched provision.
Well, but he decides that's our approach. I mean, we all must have a say on this.
You see, there's a provision in the Constitution that needs to be changed for this to happen. And the Constitution itself has laid down the rules by which you can change portions of it.
But he wants broader consultation.
Yeah, but why do you want to go and waste everybody's time with that when you can have a simple way of amending it, which is allowed by the Constitution?
You remember, he's adding the creation of the regions. So if you want to do all that, why don't you just box all into one referendum and just have it?
I'm not sure Nana Akufo-Addo said that the referendum on it will be done in 2018. I think he said that the election will happen in that year, which is different from having a referendum on it.
Which means that he will begin the legal processes way earlier before.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, there are two things. Let's clarify them. It's different when you say that the elections will happen in 2018. And it's also different when you say that a referendum on that decision will happen in 2018. So I'm saying to you that this election of MMDCs is not an entrenched provision. So Parliament, by a resolution of 2/3, can change that law, which gives the power to the president to appoint. But before you can have that election in 2018 to coincide with the election of assembly members, you need to take the steps. So Parliament, for example, the leader of government business, or whether Nana Akufo-Addo will appoint a minister for parliamentary affairs, we don't know. Whoever will be responsible for government business should, in the first 3 months, put these processes in motion so that we know that the commitment is there. If we wait till 2018 before a referendum on that decision will be exercised, then we have wasted 4 years. And when do you want us to have the election? The second term, or when after election 2020? We don't want that. We can do that now.
You're simply putting pressure on him to do it.
Yeah, he has to do. That's the best thing we need to do, because he committed to it, and it's not a difficult thing to do. And that is where we have gotten to. We, as a people, we don't have to, if you like, wait for elections for PPP to come back and go around and campaign. We are not a party of elections only. We are a party of reforms. And these things, Nana Akufo-Addo has won huge majority votes everywhere. Everybody is applauding him. But nothing will change in this country if he doesn't allow accountability at the local level. That has to happen. Look, I'll just read to you the Article 240, Clause 2E. A very beautiful thing. It said to ensure accountability of local government authorities. People in particular local government areas shall, as far as practicable, be afforded the opportunity to participate effectively in their governance. Now, are you saying that allowing people to decide who sits as district chief executive is not practical now? It is practical, and that is what we need to do. And we are not talking that one only. We are talking about other issues that we think if the constitution was reformed, it will free up space for us to be able to fight corruption and so on and so forth. We think that members of parliament who get appointed to become ministers of state compromise their position as overseers of the work of the executive, because I can't go and sit with the president, agree that we are going to buy this tablet, and then I'm sending it to parliament for parliament to scrutinize whether it's a good decision. And me, I am part of the same people who took the decision at cabinet in the first place. Who are we deceiving? So we are saying that if Evans Mensah is in parliament and the president thinks that he needs him to do a certain job, give the opportunity to Evans to decide whether he wants to continue to work in parliament as an overseer or you want to come and serve your administration. You can't have both.
But I doubt reading it in the MP manifesto that that's something they want to address. You say that it should be part of it.
It's part of it. And before I forget, going back to the election of MMDCs, we are worried that the MPP has not told us. They just said they will elect DCs. But we know other mode of election. The mode that we are pushing for, and so that if the next administration considers doing it, the mode has to be by popular election. The same way we vote for assemblymen. The same way we vote for MPs.
Which other way you fear they might use to?
Well, the NDC had one, and they took inspiration from a certain recommendation contained in the Constitutional Review Commission's report that said that the president should nominate the candidate for that election. I don't even know why the Constitutional Review put that recommendation there, that for district assembly, they divided into three. You have the metropolitan, municipal, and district. And they said that for the district, the candidates for the election should be nominated by the president for them to go through a certain motion, select 3 of them, for those 3 people to come and stand before you and I to choose from. That is not an election. That is a rigged process. So the NDC decided to capture that one and extend it to cover municipal and metropolitan areas. But NDPP is silent. And in fact, on all Nana Akufo-Addo's pronouncement, the president-elect, he has not come clear as to whether we are voting by the same means by which we elect assemblymen, the same means by which we elect MPs, the same means by which we elect our president. Let those who want to put themselves forward to contest that chief executive position do so on their own free will.
So
universal adult suffrage.
Universal adult suffrage on
yes, on this one.
Let's talk about the selecting majority of ministers from Parliament,
yes,
which has been another recurring theme that you've been driving over the years.
Yes.
It's never seen the light of day. There's a reason why the framework of the Constitution put that in there.
Yes.
To want to dismiss it or repeal it, you must understand why the framework of the Constitution put that in the first place.
Yes.
Do you understand what that is? And,
yes.
And what is it?
It's a weak argument.
Which is what?
My understanding, truly, of why they did that is to be able to allow the president to control Parliament. Beyond that, there's no justification.
No, but that's what it is. That's not why they put it there.
Yeah, why? But why did they
simply
put
want
it?
to?
I've given you my answer. Why did they put it there?
To control. The frameworks of the Constitution have noble reasons why that is.
Which is?
I mean, so if you have people who are both in executive
yes.
and in Parliament,
yes, what would they do?
Another argument could be that then the 2 arms can work in tandem. In other words, this is doing. Remember, the gap as our Constitution is right now, a lot of the bills really are initiated by government.
Yes.
Right? So if you have a total separation,
yes, and
you have government introducing the bills, remember the ministers are those who go and introduce the bills.
Yes.
So if you have an employment bill, it's the employment minister who goes to do it. If the employment minister is a member of Parliament, he understands the processes. He's very conversant with the process. He knows how to do it. There is symbiosis in that relationship, rather than have a complete cut point, severance of relationship between the executive and the legislature. Maybe that's why they thought that is.
Well, you are trying to put before.
No, of course. I mean,
there was a certain good intention.
Yeah, there must be.
Yeah, but that good intention has not materialized. I've heard people who want this to continue refer to the Liman administration, where his bill was defeated or his budget was not approved and so on and so forth. But that is scaremongering. If you do your job well and you're an effective finance minister, mind you, you don't have to be a member of Parliament to be able to introduce bills. Well, of course, I understand that you will appreciate things better if you are part of the parliamentary setting and for you to make an argument before Parliament. But ministers are allowed by arrangements to go and put their bills before Parliament. When they finish, they can even participate in the debate, just that you can't have a casting vote. So that can still go on. Ministers, if you want to introduce any bill on lands and forestry and so on and so forth, can go there. What we are saying is that Parliament, 30% at least, of members of Parliament are also part of the executive. You are weakening Parliament. You have disabled them. And you see, you don't only disable those you have appointed. You disable those that are yet to be appointed.
What is the point? Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP has an overwhelming majority in Parliament.
Yes.
Whether he selects his ministers from there or not,
yes,
he has control over Parliament.
Yes.
So what's the point? I mean, apart from window dressing the issue, what difference would that make?
You see, there are layers of influence. So, for example, if it is worse, like you said, you are saying that the president still has influence. Mind you, the party that we form is an individual association, freedom. I would decide to join PPP and prosecute a parliamentary agenda. So when I'm in Parliament, I'm representing my people, not necessarily my party. I believe in some ideology.
But you know that doesn't work in Ghana.
It has to work.
We have a Parliament that depends on the whip system. The whip system means that you have to toe the party line whether I like it or not.
Let me do what I want to do.
170 majority in Parliament, it's as good as saying whatever another wants, is what will happen.
You're saying as if the MPs don't have a choice. The whip is there just to mobilize and organize. It doesn't mean
whip them in line, whip them to toe the party line. When the party takes a decision that this is how we want to go, that's why the whip system.
Yeah, but the individual has been elected to parliament. So if he decides to go against his party, he must go and deal with his party.
Let's go to Aiko, who joins us on the telephone line. He's a former Attorney General, of course, somebody who might just simply become possibly our next AG also. Ms. Aiko, thank you for your time here on the Pulse.
Hello, how's everything?
Everything is great, sir. So your friends from the PPP are making demands already. With days for Nanado to be sworn in, they insist that your manifesto promise to get arrangements, legal arrangements in place to make it possible for DCs and MMDC generally to be elected. They want you to do it in 2017 next year, not 2018 or any other date. And then they also talk about the constitutional provision that says select majority of your ministers from parliament. They also want you to deal with that all within the next 12 months. Well, what do you say to them?
Well, surely we considered all that at the manifesto preparation stage, and we thought we needed to give ourselves some time. You've got to realize that appointment of DCs, MPs has been the book, and therefore what we are talking about, the election, becomes something different. So you need to prepare the minds of everybody. Need to have sufficient time to do that. Need to have time for people to campaign, do whatever manifestos they have, and all that. That is why we want to give ourselves about a year to put the legislation in place, and then the following year we can have the elections come on.
Yeah, but they say that our recent history shows, and particularly the MPP, you promised this before in 2000, you never delivered, and so there's skepticism out there that you can even do this in the first place, and that's why they want you to begin the process as soon as possible to show that beyond mere words, you're really committed to this.
No, but when the bill is presented in Parliament, we all will see a meeting. It will really be presented for everybody to go and read. So what is the speech? So if we were not able to do it before, and we now say we're going to do it, then we have won practically 171 or 2 seats. Who says there's anything we cannot pass a law or making changes? We can do all that. We are saying that it's like an orientation. These are people who are used to being appointed. And if you care to know, people are already lobbying to be appointed MPs, DCs, even when we've not finished with ministers. And then you all of a sudden tell them, go and prepare for elections, So I think it makes sound sense that, let's give them some time, let's bring themselves off the appointment kind of thinking and get themselves prepared that now you are going to be elected. So get your act together. You've got to get a manifesto and get a campaign team ready and do all the things that parliamentarians do or people who are seeking elective offices do before you ask them to go and contest. And I do not think that DPP should worry itself about this kind of thing. It will happen. We have said we're going to do it. We're going to keep our campaign promises and it will be done. For now, though, some will be appointed to hold the fort until the laws are put in place, and then we'll come up with the elections proper.
I go to hold the line for me briefly because I have Kofi Siao, the policy advisor to the PPP, here with me. You heard that. That is firm commitment from a man who played a central role in putting together the manifesto. They're assuring you that you have nothing to worry. You still have concerns?
Well, I have one more concern, which is how they intend to do the election, the kind of legislation that will be put before Parliament. Is the president still going to have a hand in selecting the candidates for that election, or is going to be open to all? He just mentioned something that worries me a little, that the DCs that are there will be told that elections are going to happen, so they need to prepare and campaign. There is some element of abuse of incumbency there and so on, but that can be dealt with later on. But as we speak, we don't know the mode of election, because I've told you about the NDC proposal, which is that the president, we're going to have an election anyway, But the candidates for that election will be selected by the president. We don't seem to know the NPP angle, Nana Akufo-Addo's option. Is it the way we vote for our MPs? Then all of us are rest assured and prepared towards competition and so on and so. Is it going to be partisan? They haven't mentioned their mode of selection, if they are allowed that, or they also change that constitutional provision. Would they abolish which we strongly propose, the appointment of 1/3 of assembly members, because it's undemocratic? You can't have some people elected and about 1,800 assembly members across Ghana elected by the president. So is this comprehensive approach to elections that we are looking for?
Let me get you right. Now you're adding a bit more meat to the bone. Are you saying that the president should have no role at all when it comes to the assembly level?
Yeah, but what do you want to do with it?
He should be totally removed from the process.
Yes, because it's elections.
So of governing at the local level.
But is any president involved in the election of the next president? Except that is a participant.
But what you're proposing can be a recipe for disaster.
It can't be.
You're saying that a real development agent should be totally removed from the man who has control of our national affairs, who will be deciding where the money goes. Of course, it goes to parliament, but we all know that the president goes to parliament with the budget.
But even today, with this arrangement as we have it, the way and manner monies go to the district assemblies are determined by law, not the president.
No, of course, but we run an executive government.
Yes.
The president, all the money that we have is in the custody. He's holding it in trust for me and you. So you're saying that the man who is controlling that, who has a bigger policy direction for the country, whose ideas and vision must flow through the entire system, through the local level, for which reason we voted for him. He should be removed from the actual development on the ground?
Yes, by your question, you are proposing that the president should have a role to play in how we select our district chief executive.
No, I'm just asking you what your proposal that you say elect your DCs, that's fine. You vote at the second level and saying members of the assembly, the president shouldn't have a hand in even selecting and appointing someone.
Yeah, but what is the usefulness of that exercise, as apart from controlling those who go there directly?
My question to you is that if you remove him from that process, aren't you leaving room for chaos?
No, there'll be no chaos. Now we elect more people into the assembly on our own.
People who don't believe in the vision for which we voted for the president.
What is the vision? They're going to build markets. They're going to ensure sanitation. They're going to make sure the traffic is flowing.
Now let me bring in, Mr. Eko, do you agree with that?
Well, the first point you make about the president and the president picking some people or influencing the election. Let me say that what I said was that new MCs, DCs will be appointed to hold the fort until the laws are in place for the election to take place. That is the point that I made. Now, you should not confuse the Constitutional Review Commission's recommendation as against the government white paper. I think the Constitutional Review Commission's recommendation was for the DCs, MCs, blah, 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 to be elected. But it was rather the government white paper that put up that proposal that the president may nominate, I think, 3 people, and then we choose among the 3 people. That is not the same as what the constitutional amendment.
What is the MPP's approach to the election?
You see, because we're going to do it in Parliament, I think that we should just bide our time and hold on for the bill to be presented.
No, but you should know by now how you're going to approach this.
Oh, you see, there's no rush about this. We've said that we're going to have a law to change the idea of having them appointed to that of being elected. And the law will be drafted and presented before Parliament. So, the law will come eventually. So why do we want to,
is it fair, would it be fair to assume that at this point, although you've made a bigger proposal that you want the elections, you haven't actually decided how you want the elections done?
You see, he's working with the government white paper thing, which talks about three people being nominated for the elections to now cover them. I don't know if if I'm right. And that is what he seems to be working with.
That's the white paper. I'm asking about the, okay, let's assume the MPP white paper. What's the MPP white paper on this?
The MPP says we are going to have them elected.
Yeah, so how are you going to elect them? Are you going to nominate for the elections, or are you going to leave a universal outdoor assembly?
You should have nomination, isn't it? So people will just file their nomination, and then, you know, if they meet the criteria, eligibility criteria, then now can just go to the market campaign and so be it.
Okay, so you're leaving it for everybody to have a bite of the cherry.
Yes.
You're not going to
like MPC or whatever.
Okay.
Any elected office go and campaign, because what we are saying is that because they are nominated and appointed, sometimes they feel it's just like something in their pocket. They are not working for it. But if you work for it, then you know the sanitation is a problem. And you go telling everybody you clear sanitation and blah, blah, blah. And the time comes when you're unable to clear the sanitation. Yeah. You think if you contest again, you'll be elected? You understand? So we want to go on their own thing.
Well, let me ask you about his second leg of the argument, which is that even with the elections, the president should not even have a hand at all in appointing people to the assembly, so that the entire assembly is made up of elected people. Your president has no relationship whatsoever in deciding who occupies any position as far as
I don't think we bought that. We discussed it, but we thought the one that should still remain. Okay. I don't think we bought that.
Okay, so that's your answer. So the president will still appoint 1/3 of the assembly.
Oh yes, the appointment will still continue. Don't forget that we have chiefs, you know, who can also be helpful in the area in which they find themselves, you know, and some chiefs play roles, isn't it? So we don't see why we should take away that right or authority of the president to do that. As far as I'm concerned, when we discussed it, we said it should remain. It's only the appointment of the DCs and the MCs that will change to election. But when it comes to the appointment of the 1/3, the president will still continue to wield that power. Remember that you always have to look at the political aspect of things that we do. You see, we are in politics. We are not only doing law, we are only doing politics. So you get the drift, man.
I get the drift.
Yeah, so you balance. There should be a delicate balance of those who have worked, and they need to be recognized, you know?
Yeah, but it brings me to the next point about, even in the elections, would you allow it to be partisan? In other words, can the MPP sponsor a candidate and say, this is our candidate, and MPP can come, PPP can do same? I mean, is that how you frame the law?
I think that was also considered. Is that we should not play the ostrich. We know that at the end of every election, you are a journalist, senior journalist, you know. Yeah. People will tell you that we have so many MPP assemblymen.
That's true.
And we have so many NDC assemblymen.
That's true.
So the thing is happening. So what's the point of running away from it?
In other words, you want to move it from the shadows into the light. I mean, let everybody. I mean, let the party simply go and campaign and put their people there.
If you recall, even during the campaign, there was a group of assemblymen who said they are MPP assemblymen.
That's true.
Who are campaigning for the president.
Yeah, but I wonder though. I mean, there's a very serious part of this that the reality might hit very soon, which is if you allow this to happen, and assuming you have an NPP district chief executive, a municipal chief, an NDC district chief executive, you know, at the helm of affairs in some part of the country, and yet you have an NPP government, an NPP president. What sort of relationship can you build with them? And you know,
we know all that, and in fact, it was part of the reasons why we thought there should not be elections, because you don't want an NDC, DC, or MCE whose ideas are at cross purposes with the president. Exactly. And meanwhile, these are representatives of the president on the ground, in the field. So that was why it was kicked again. But the general consensus appears to be that people want them to be elected. So you are in politics. You've got to listen to the people.
Yeah.
You understand? But earlier on, these were the reasons why we felt that there shouldn't be elections. These were the reasons.
And also,
the regional minister, the MP, the DC, they are all the president's representatives in the district and the municipalities. So why should they be different from the president? Now we have also thought of coming out with the 1 million equivalent authority to be set up to give to the constituencies to work. You see, so that would also be, an added impetus to help this thing take off well.
Well, brilliant ideas there. Finally, they also suggest that this constitutional practice where you are mandated to select majority of your MPs, a majority of the ministers from Parliament, that they want this scrubbed also. Do you have any intentions of doing that?
I think the Constitutional Review Committee also spoke about that. The reason we all know that a president's budget was defeated because the people there were not, the ministers were not also parliamentarians. So he sent his budget there, that is Liman, and the budget was defeated. As a result, when we came to craft this constitution, we thought that to avoid such a thing ever happening, we should have more of the ministers themselves as parliamentarians. Control. So they will be present to vote. But I thought that the Constitutional Review Committee had a different opinion, that if need be, the president should be given free hand to appoint. That has not changed. So I don't know what my friend Kofi Siahu is complaining about. The Constitution is the Constitution, it remains so, the provisions remain so until they are amended. So there's nothing President Akufo-Addo can do except to abide by the Constitution. Otherwise, somebody will take him to the Supreme Court for interpretation of an act which he has done, which is contrary.
But you can amend the Constitution. You can amend.
Yeah. So until we amend it, what I'm saying is that is the law. Okay. So I remember that we've gone to do this Constitutional Amendment Review Commission thing. So the report is also available, which can be considered.
Mr. Ekoto, I'm grateful for your time here on Pulse.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. So that's your answer to the question. First of all, he answered the question about how the elections will be done. He says they want a free hand. Yes. You can go and, if you want to stand, you can go and stand.
Yeah, I'm actually considering.
will not interfere in that. But he disagrees with the second leg of the argument, which is that the president should not have a hand in selecting 2/3 or so of the assembly. He says that won't happen because it's a political game you're playing.
Yes.
So you have to balance the legal with the politics.
Well, I understand the politics, but I have a solution to deal with the political side. But before I deal with that, I want to say that the people that get appointed, they hide behind local expertise and chiefs and business people, for which reason they want to reserve those 30% for. But go and check. I have done the work. They are all party executives here and there who must be given some opportunity because their party has won power.
That's true.
So the good intentions of that is not utilized. So it's just pure politics that allows people who don't qualify to be there to go there.
You can remove the politics.
Yes, but you see, why would you? The NPP, the NDC have tried to take advantage of this arrangement. It hasn't saved them anything. They lost the 2000 election, the NPP lost the 2008 election, the NDC has lost 2016 election. If those people and those appointments could sustain you in power for forever, we won't have these changeover of government and so on and so forth. So let's, if you like, put that myopic benefit aside and look at the broader picture of choosing competent people who can be held accountable.
If you put somebody there, competent people.
No, we can choose competent people. That's my argument.
Okay.
But the people that the politicians choose are chosen on pure political considerations. So they sacrifice competence. Now, for the political side, let's see that the president can still take advantage or take charge of natural resources, national security, internal security, foreign affairs, taxation, and so on and so forth. These are not things you cede to the district chief executive because he's been appointed or he's been elected. The DC's job can be cut out for him or her. Feeder roads, they handle all the feeder roads in this country. So why do you want to allow somebody to sit in Accra to say that this farm road to this farm should be handled by the Minister for Transport or Minister for Roads and Highways? So let the Minister for Roads and Highways deal with the highways and urban roads and so on and so forth. Let the feeder roads be handled by the DCs. And we can look at the mathematics and see what the budgetary
you have to put all this
allocations
in the law then.
Yeah, you have to arrange. That's the thinking. That is why we need to come together as early as possible and see what can the DCU do. If the president is sitting in Accra and is concerned about
what is the
how
point,
Gata is going to be
what is the
constructed.
point of going to the pain of electing DCs only to tie their hands to what they can do and what they can't do?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That there are some people who are raising concerns.
Just give them the Monday. Give them the money.
That is
just as you give the president.
Yeah,
just give him the room to operate. Why do you want to say, do this, you can't do this, do this, you can't do this?
Well, some people are worried. Like you pose a question. It came from a certain word.
Yeah, but if you're going to give him the mandate to elect somebody to represent me at the local level,
yes,
I want the person to be given the free hand
to
use the money I will give him as a citizen to work.
There are some things.
Once you tie his hands to doing feeder roads,
for example, in my district there's a military training school there. Okay, so if you elect a district chief executive, are you saying by extension he has control and command over the military training camp that is there? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So, but some people are worried.
But our law, he will have control over the police because he's a district chief executive and executive council for the district. He's the head.
Yes. So those who are worried about some of these things that the president might necessarily have control, we can, if you like, by law, exclude control of the DCE from it. So I'm just providing a solution to those who are scared that somehow the president comes to town.
Let's call this a brainstorming session, so there's no problem at all.
Yes,
So I want to say thank you very much, but that's the MPP's position. Even on the point about scrapping this constitutional provision of selecting majority of MPs, ministers from Parliament, he says, no way. As far as the law is concerned, they're simply going to implement.
Well, it means what he's simply saying is that they don't have any plans to change it.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, they just go by what.
But the CRC recommendation is more dangerous than what we have now, because the reason why they did that and he gave that answer is to be able to control 30% of members of Parliament, so that at least those people can fight for the president or the executive when it comes to defeating any important bill. What the CRC did was to listen to one side of the argument. They listened to the complaint of former President Rawlings and President Kufuor and say that you are complaining that I tie your hands, the constitution is tying your hand, that even if you don't want some people from Parliament, because of the mathematics, you must have more people coming from there. So what the CRC did was that, okay, we are removing the limitation, but it doesn't mean that the president cannot go full haul. So the president can decide, if you like, appoint 83 of his ministers from Parliament, which is more dangerous than what you have now. So
what you're saying is that scrap the existing law, but then put in another law that says what?
That says that if you want somebody in Parliament, go and negotiate with him and talk to him. If he decides to come and serve in the executive, he should make a decision to leave Parliament and join the executive.
I see.
That's all. So we are not saying don't go to Parliament
in effect, what you're saying is...
You can't have both.
No, but what you're saying is after the elections. Remember that our elections, the appointments will happen after the elections.
Yes.
After you've elected 275 MPs.
Yes.
You want crack team of whatever, and they are in Parliament. 10 of them are in Parliament. Let's assume 10 of them are in Parliament.
Yes.
You want us to have 10 by-elections.
Yeah, but it's not by force that the president... You see, I can decide.
No, the point, of course. I mean, it's not by force that he should go to Parliament.
Yeah, so he's decided to become a legislator.
But he has 10 people who are really experienced. Look at MPP.
Yes.
Look at the guys in Parliament.
Yeah,
a lot of them have been ministers
That's
before.
one of his troubles, that he has huge talent in Parliament.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to, if you like, appoint just a few.
Yeah.
And the rest must come from outside and so on and so forth.
No, but I mean, you forget about Akufo-Addo. I'm saying on the general scale.
Yeah.
After an election, you're saying to me and to Ghanaians that when he has good people in Parliament who can serve the country,
yes,
it goes to them. Let's say 10 of them.
Yes.
We should have 10 by-elections just because he picked them to be ministers.
Yeah, but yes, that's what we are saying. But doesn't mean
ministers that will be possibly reshuffled.
Yeah, but that is why the decision to go to Parliament will be decided by the individual. So I will decide that I'm taking this line.
Yeah, but there's a conflict in what you're suggesting. The people have elected a guy to go to Parliament.
Yes.
The president wants him to serve the same people.
Yes.
You say you should abandon and then sort of hold under election.
Yeah, but even after election, people can resign. So the people have an opportunity to choose the next person who put himself forward.
Just a couple of weeks after they've elected this guy.
Yes, but you see, those who...
You think that is really feasible?
But you see what is happening today. All of them go there and wait and mark time. They are not legislators. They don't want to legislate. They want to be ministers of state. So why do you want to go to parliament and waste everybody's time?
Anyway, Mr. Sian, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure this debate will continue as now that the new government is forming. We'll see which of them they will implement and which they will not implement. Time, they say, will tell. Kofi Sian is the policy advisor to the PPP, and thank you that he joined us with his thoughts on this all-important subject. We'll take a short break. When we return, as the Harmattan season intensifies, commercial transport operators raise concern about fading road markings. We'll bring you details of that after the break.